Hello, hi, this is D. Vincent W. I'm anticipating the eviction of the water protectors at Standing Rock on the 5th of December, and I wanted to post this about the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, and there is a link from an article on the website is About News. The article is by Tom Head, civil liberties expert. Translates into force of the country in its purest form. Posse Comitatus is an ancient English doctrine that allows law enforcement agents to recruit able-bodied men in times of strife, effectively deputizing them to help keep the peace. The American colonies made ample use of this concept, as did towns in expanding western frontier. Practice gave birth to the common term posse. Posse Comitatus of 1878 passed to prevent U.S. military personnel from acting as law enforcement agents on U.S. soil. This was common practice before 1878, particularly in areas of the West where the U.S. military was often the only law enforcement to be found. Soldiers often enforced civilian laws whenever it was necessary. The Posse Comitatus Act banned this practice, and the act still remains into effect. The text 18 U.S.C. section 1385 reads, "Whoever, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or acts of Congress, willfully uses any part of the Army or the Air Force as a posse comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 2 years or both." The unintended consequences. The Act is seen as an essential element of the American civil liberties framework. It originally represented a profound betrayal of African American Southerners by the federal government. U.S. troops were stationed in the South to protect recently freed black slaves in the Reconstruction years following the American Civil War. This protection allowed black Southerners to vote and who sought to ensure that they could function as free people. The Posse Comitatus Act withdrew U.S. troops from Southern soil when lawmakers agreed to end Reconstruction in exchange for electoral votes during the controversial 1876 presidential election. Black Southerners were subjected to nearly a century of Jim Crow laws, those that legalized segregation with almost no federal protection. Now today, the act has taken on a very different meaning from which was intended in 1878. No longer associated with Reconstruction, the Act provides a useful way to prevent U.S. armed forces from directing their efforts against U.S. dissident groups. Public sentiment in favor of the Posse Comitatus Act is strong. 2006 law was enacted in response to Hurricane Katrina that permitted an exception to the Act in cases of public disasters, but it was also repealed a year later. You might recall some stories about what happened in the 9th Ward. Technically, the Act applies only to U.S. Army and Air Force. The Coast Guard are considered law enforcement officers, and the Coast Guard does not report to the Department of Defense. Therefore, it is exempt. The Act can be overridden by the President in cases of extreme emergencies. It effectively bars local law enforcement from calling up the militia for help enforcing state laws, although state governors may request the assistance of National Guard under some circumstances. My heart goes out to the water protectors in North Dakota. And thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself. Bye.